It's been about a year since I finished my studies at university, and one of the most common things I found myself grappling with is how do I balance the hype around AI with learning and understanding what I'm building and even what I'm asking AI to build. And I know it's not just me, because recently I would have attended a speed networking session at my old stomping grounds at the University of the West Indies, where I spoke with a number of students across many different faculties. And regardless of the group I was speaking to, I realized there was one common theme. Many of them were curious about what I think about AI, how I use AI, how I think they should be using AI, and how to balance it all with learning and growing as a new computer science student, new software developer, or someone who's just interested in tech in general. So I figured, why not sit down and talk about it? Why not share some of my thoughts on this very interesting and nuanced topic? So let's set the stage. Things are changing, and they're changing incredibly fast. The internet is making it seem like if you're not using AI, then you're falling behind, and realistically speaking, they're not wrong. Companies are adopting AI now. Even here locally in the Caribbean, people are using AI rapidly every day. People are using it in their everyday lives. There's many different use cases for AI, and people are learning them. And naturally, as someone interested in tech, I believe you should be too. In 2026, knowing these tools is actually a huge part of being employable. Think of it as another certification, another course, another skill, the same way that companies may require you to know React, JavaScript, Python, whatever it is that they're working with, they also want you to know how to use AI. So naturally, along with the projects that you're listing on your CV, which include the different technologies you're working with, such as React and these other things I just mentioned, you also want to demonstrate that you know and understand how to use AI. However, and I must stress this heavily, there is a huge difference between building software and being someone who understands how to build software. A new software developer can't usually determine whether or not AI has produced good code or absolute garbage, but a skilled and experienced engineer can. And this is where that gap occurs between somebody who knows the fundamentals and someone who has absolutely no clue. So enough of the rambling. Let's talk about how I actually try to balance learning AI with learning the fundamentals. Numero uno. Let AI do the boring stuff. What I mean by this is there's a lot of really menial parts of software engineering. There's a lot of things that become really repetitive really quickly, and they can be very easily outsourced to AI. Some of these things could include writing documentation. Once you establish the course structure and you know how to CRUD, then having it write out the rest of those functions. Just anything that is completely and utterly repetitive, menial, can be easily automated. Like, let AI do that for you. The reason why you can do this is because this isn't really where learning happens anyways. This is more of muscle memory building, and if it's something that you already understand, I don't see the need to keep doing it over and over and over. Maybe do it 1 to 2, 3 times, and then once you have the basics understood, then let AI do it for you. That's fine. Number 2, use AI as your fallback debugger rather than your go-to. And what I mean by this is if you run into an error, if you run into a problem, if something isn't compiling, sit and try to understand what the error message is saying. Try to see if you can conceptualize a solution before you run to AI. And in doing this, you essentially work your brain a bit more. You work that problem solving muscle, you work that critical thinking muscle. And honestly, it's just a good little exercise to make yourself more in tune with what is happening. And if it's something you genuinely cannot figure out, then you ask AI, but don't just leave it there. After AI gives you a solution, I want you to sit, look at the original problem again, look at the solution AI is giving you, and try to understand why it gave you the solution to this problem. In addition to this, I want you to interrogate your AI. And what I mean is I want you to ask it why it chose this solution, how this solves the original problem, why it didn't choose an alternative. Really try to understand what it is that makes this the effective solution to the original problem. Number 3, build small things completely from scratch. You're not touching AI, you're not asking AI to write the feature for you, you're not using AI in any capacity. You are building something from scratch. The only case in which I'll allow you to use AI for this one is genuinely if you're asking a general question. So for example, if you come across something in React that you don't understand and you're asking, how do component life cycles work? Something like that. That's fine. But in terms of touching the code, writing the code, debugging, do that yourself. I have been trying to do this. I wish I had more time to do it. I've been trying to do this where if I have a project at work that is completely AI heavy, then I have a personal project, a mini feature, something that I'm building myself from scratch, only using AI as a kind of a search engine, like how we used to back in the day, back in my day. So for example, I have Resource, which is a pet project that you guys may know, live on the Google Play Store, so go check it out. And this app is a good place for me to play around without using AI so that I keep that muscle memory going and I keep learning new things, I keep evolving. And number 4 is a little tip that my colleague shared with me recently. I haven't had much time to play around with it myself, but I think it's an interesting concept where if you put Claude Code in learning mode, you can actually interact with it a bit more instead of just letting Claude run off and do what it's doing by itself. And this actually helps you to learn and retain some of the different concepts as you're developing. So it's still AI assisted development, but you have a bit more of a hands-on approach in this instance. An alternative to this is whatever tool you're using doesn't have to be Claude. You can ask it to actually explain things to you, to walk you through this concept more thoroughly, to not just solve the bug, but help you understand why it's happening. And in doing so, you're speaking to it in the same way you would speak to a tutor or a teacher and trying to get more of an understanding behind the why rather than just the final output. If I'm being honest, balancing between speed of development and learning AI tools with actually learning and understanding the fundamentals is something that I have struggled with since I've left UE, and that's almost a year ago. It's only now that I'm starting to feel like I have a better understanding of how to balance the two, but even as I'm saying that, I still don't feel like I'm 100% there. But these things that I've mentioned are things that I think could take your AI imbalance from this being your AI skills and this being your fundamental knowledge, and at least bring it down to maybe here, if you're lucky, if you're like me. The ideal would be to have it like this. To tell you the truth, some days I lean more heavily on AI, some days I try to be more intentional and not use it at all. As for me, the kind of engineer I want to be is someone who understands what they're doing, understands what they're building, whether or not it's written by AI. I want to be someone who, if someone asks me a question, I can explain to them exactly what it is I've done, exactly why I've done it, and exactly what the trade-offs are for this particular change. And I think fundamentally that is going to have more of a major impact over the course of my career than if I just only build with AI, if I only use it, if I don't use anything else, if I don't understand the fundamentals. Because at the end of the day, if anyone has any questions for me, if anyone wants to understand why I did something the way I did, what are the trade-offs relating to this, why I built it this way, I can honestly sit there and answer, not just saying, oh, Claude told me to do it, but also letting them know that because X and Y and Z trade-off is going to occur if we do it in this way, I decided we should do it in this way because it would be better for us as a company. That is what is going to give you the real edge. Yeah, I don't know how to end this video. I don't remember how I ended these things before, but thank you for watching. I hope this helps, and please leave a comment below on your experience with AI, how you feel about it, and how you've been using it in your developer journey. Also, like, subscribe, all them things someday, and until next time, this has been Technically T. Bye!